my name was Brother Tech Marine Galen Vross, and I am still loyal to the chapter. Still loyal, even though my hands have become autocannons that fire without my permission. Still loyal, even though my ribcage split open 3 days ago and birthed a plasma weapon that screams in a voice I recognize as my own. Still loyal, even though I can feel the things the Chaos cultists call gods whispering through the metal that used to be my bones, and I cannot die, cannot stop, cannot do anything but watch as my body produces weapons designed to kill my brothers. They keep me in Containment Cell 7, deep in the strike cruiser's brig. The walls are 3 meters of reinforced ceramite. The door is sealed with 17 different locking mechanisms. And it doesn't matter, because yesterday my left leg transformed into a melter cannon and melted through 1/2 meter of the southern wall before the Tech Marines managed to shut down the power flow to this section. I didn't command it to fire. I would never. But the virus doesn't care about commands anymore. But let me tell you how I got here. Let me tell you about the Obliterator virus and why the Imperium fears it more than simple death. My name is Brother Tech Marine Galen Vross of the Crimson Sentinels, 3rd Company. I was 87 standard years old when the virus entered my system. I stood 2.3 meters tall in my power armor, weighed 340 kilograms fully equipped, and I could recalibrate a plasma coil to within 0.003 margin of error using only my hands and a basic diagnostic tool. These details matter. You need to understand I was not just a space marine. I was a specialist. A bridge between the Adeptus Astartes and the Adeptus Mechanicus. I spoke in binary prayers that I knew were just programming languages dressed in religious ceremony, but I spoke them anyway because that was the price of accessing the knowledge I needed. The machine spirits weren't real. I knew that. Had always known that, despite what the tech priests claimed. Machines were tools. Complex, beautiful tools, but tools nonetheless. I had black hair cut to regulation length, a scar across my left temple from a Tyranid warrior's bone zord, and my father's, no, not my father, Gene father. Chapter Master Aldrich Vross, who had personally recommended me for Tech Marine training when I was still a scout. I remember his voice in the training halls of our monastery. Technology is power, Galen, but never forget you wield the tool. The tool does not wield you. I kept that principle for 67 years of service, 17 campaigns, 4 theaters of war. I had blessed isn't right. I had maintained, repaired, and optimized equipment for 300 battle brothers. I had kept our armor functional, our weapons operational, our vehicles battle-ready. I was good at my job. I was proud of my job. My dream was simple: earn the rank of Master of the Forge. Oversee all technical operations for the chapter. Maybe, if I served long enough and with enough distinction, I'd be granted the honor of maintaining the chapter's relic equipment. The ancient suits of Terminator armor. The master-crafted weapons that had been used by heroes for millennia. The Imperium's propaganda said the Emperor protects his faithful servants. The priests claimed that loyal service would be rewarded. But I'd seen enough brothers die in meaningless battles to know those were just the lies they told to make us accept orders. We protected each other. The Emperor was a corpse on a throne, and whatever protection he supposedly offered was just the name the Administratum used to justify sending us into hellfire. Still, I served. Because service gave me purpose. Because my brothers needed someone to keep their armor functioning. Because even if the cause was a lie, the bonds between us were real. Then we received orders to investigate a hulk in the Calyx Drift, and everything I knew about the relationship between man and machine was proven catastrophically wrong. The space hulk, designated Tartarus 9, had emerged from the warp 3 weeks prior, broadcasting a weak Imperial distress beacon from somewhere in its twisted mass of fused ship wreckage. Standard protocol: investigate, recover gene seed if any Astartes casualties are present, purge any Xenos infestation, and either claim useful salvage or destroy the hulk to prevent it becoming a threat. I was part of the investigation team. 10 brothers, 5 tactical marines, 2 assault marines, 1 devastator, 1 apothecary, and me. Brother Sergeant Caney led the squad. Good man. Practical. He didn't waste words on rhetoric about the Emperor's grace. He just gave clear orders and expected competent execution. We breached through an ancient cargo bay on the hulk's outer shell. The moment I stepped inside, my armor's atmospheric sensors registered contamination, trace warp radiation, biological decay, and something else. Something my instruments couldn't identify, but that made the temperature readings fluctuate without physical cause. "Ross, analysis," Caney ordered. I ran full spectral scans. "Sir, detecting warp taint. Estimate this hulk has spent subjective decades in the Imperium. Structural integrity compromised in multiple sections. Also detecting... Sir, there's active power in some systems. Impossible to determine source without direct investigation." Active power? Brother Matthias, one of the tactical marines, checked his auspex. "This wreck's been dead for centuries. Nothing should be running." "The readouts are consistent," I confirmed. "Something is generating power, approximately 400 meters forward, starboard side." Caney considered for exactly 3.2 seconds. "We investigate. Standard formation. Ross, you're with me at center. If there's functioning technology, I want you analyzing it before we decide whether to salvage or destroy." We moved through the hulk in textbook clearing formation. The corridors were a nightmare of twisted metal and fused bulkheads. 3 or 4 different ship classes had merged here, their architectures incompatible, creating spaces that violated basic geometric principles. A passageway would narrow impossibly, or 2 corridors would occupy the same space from different angles, and we'd have to choose which direction was real. The smell was wrong. Even through my armor's filters, I could detect it. Not rot, not exactly. More like transformation. Like metal left too long in chemical baths. Like flesh exposed to radiation. Like the boundary between organic and inorganic matter had become negotiable. "Contact," Brother Severus whispered over the vox. "Movement 30 meters ahead. Single target." We raised weapons, moved forward with precision born of decades of combat experience. And we found him. He'd been a space marine once. The power armor fragments fused to his body confirmed that I could see the chapter icon partially visible on what had been his shoulder pauldron, but the rest... His right arm was a Lescanon. Not carrying a Lescanon was a Lescanon. The weapon grew from his shoulder, fused to where his arm should have been, cables and power feeds running beneath skin that had turned the color and texture of gunmetal. His left arm was humanoid but wrong. The fingers were too long, jointed in too many places, and they ended in what looked like monomolecular cutting blades. His chest had split open. Inside, I could see what remained of his organs. The multi-lung, the secondary heart, suspended in a framework of cables and ammunition feeds. His chest cavity had become a magazine system, feeding rounds to weapons I couldn't even identify that were growing from his back like metallic wings. His face was still human. That was the worst part. His face was intact, aware, and when he saw us, his expression was pure relief. "Brothers," he whispered. His voice was distorted, coming from a mouth that had become a vox speaker, but the emotion was unmistakably human. "Please, kill me. I cannot control it. I cannot stop it. Please." "Identify yourself," Caney commanded, bolter trained on the corrupted Marine. "Brother Tech Marine Marcus Thane, Crimson Sentinel's 2nd Company. I've been trapped here for, I don't know, months, years. Time doesn't work right. The virus. It entered through a wound, small cut during initial exploration, and then it just grew. Please, Brother Sergeant. I'm still loyal. I haven't succumbed to the warp taint in my mind. But my body, it doesn't obey me anymore." I moved closer, scanning him with my instruments. The readings were impossible. His body was registering as both organic and mechanical simultaneously, not cybernetics, not augmetics, but a fusion at the molecular level. Living metal. Flesh that had become alloy, blood that ran with coolant. "What did this?" I asked, though I already suspected the answer. "The obliterator virus," Marcus said. His Non-Canon arm was trembling, aiming at nothing, tracking imaginary targets. "Don't let it touch you. Don't let it—" He never finished the sentence. His chest-mounted weapons fired. Not at us. He managed to twist at the last second, firing at the bulkhead beside us instead. But I saw his face, saw the absolute horror as his body betrayed him. He was screaming inside his metal cage, trying to stop the weapons from firing, and the weapons didn't care. "Purge him," Caney ordered. "Cleansing fire, now." Flamers activated. Brother Severus and Brother Matthias bathed Marcus Thane in promethium fire. He didn't scream. I think he was grateful. His body tried to resist, tried to activate defensive systems, but the fire was too intense, too fast. He melted. Not burned, melted. The metal in his body liquefied, ran like water, and I could smell it now even through my filters. That transformation smell, biology and technology becoming one substance. And in the molten residue, I saw something moving. Microscopic, viral, still active even after the host was destroyed. "Sir," I said carefully, "we need to leave. Now. This virus, it's still viable. If any of us have hull breaches, any compromised seals?" That's when my armor's integrity alarm activated. Left gauntlet, microfracture in the ceramite, sustained during breach entry. I'd scraped against a jagged piece of whole metal. Nothing serious. Nothing that should matter. But I had been standing 3 meters from Marcus Thane when the flamers melted him, and the virus was airborne now, microscopic particles suspended in the smoke and heat. I watched the microfracture through my helmet display, watched as something darker than smoke, something that moved with purpose, seeped through the crack. I felt it enter. We retreated from the hulk immediately. Caney called for emergency extraction, and our Thunderhawk retrieved us within 30 minutes. I didn't tell them about the breach. Didn't tell them about the virus entering my system, because I was stupid. Because I thought maybe I could fight it off. Space marine biology was designed to resist disease. I had 3 redundant organs specifically for filtering toxins. I had an enhanced immune system that could neutralize most pathogens before they reached critical concentration. I felt fine during the extraction, felt fine during decontamination protocols, felt fine through the entire debriefing where I explained what the instruments had detected in Marcus Thane's corrupted body. I felt fine until hour 2, when my left hand started to itch. Not pain, not yet, just an itch deep beneath the skin, like something was moving in the bone marrow. I tried to ignore it, tried to focus on writing my technical report about the Hulk's salvage potential, but the itch spread up my forearm, into my elbow. And when I looked down at my left hand, I saw the first visible change. My fingernails were turning gray. Not the gray of death or decay, the gray of gunmetal. Ceramite gray. I went to the apothecary immediately. Brother Apothecary Severus examined my hand with instruments that had served our chapter for 3 centuries. His expression went from concerned to horrified in approximately 17 seconds. "Your cellular structure is changing," he said quietly. "At the molecular level, I'm seeing metallic compounds bonding with your organic tissue, iron, ceramite, adamantium. This shouldn't be possible. Living cells can't integrate inorganic materials this way." "Can you stop it?" I asked. My voice was steady, professional, but inside I was screaming. "I don't know. I've never seen pathology like this. It's not disease, it's transformation. Your cells aren't dying, they're changing, becoming something else." He ran more scans. "Vross, where were you exposed?" I told him about the microfracture, about Marcus Thane, about the virus that was still viable even after the host was purged. Severus was silent for exactly 11 seconds. Then, "I need to inform the captain. This is beyond my ability to treat. We may need to." He didn't finish. Didn't need to. We both knew what happened to infected Astartes. Summary execution, immediate cremation, no exceptions. "How long do I have?" I asked. "I don't know. The transformation rate is inconsistent. But based on what you described seeing in the corrupted Marine, days, maybe less." I looked at my left hand again. The gray had spread to my entire fingernail bed. And beneath the skin, I could feel something growing. Something that wasn't bone, wasn't muscle, but was definitely structure. My body was building something inside itself. "Do what you have to," I told Severus. "If I become a threat to the chapter, if I start transforming like Thane did, don't hesitate. Don't give me time to become a weapon. Just end it." He nodded. "I'll recommend immediate containment while we research treatment options." "But Vross, you understand this is likely terminal. This virus, whatever it is, has been weaponized specifically against Astartes. Our enhanced biology isn't fighting it. It's feeding it. Your body is providing raw materials for the transformation." I understood. My 3 hearts, my enhanced skeleton, my redundant organs, they were all rich in the materials the virus needed. I wasn't resisting the infection. I was accelerating it. The chapter master authorized containment 6 hours later. They moved me to Cell 7, deep in the ship's brig, sealed behind ceramite walls and reinforced doors. They left me in my armor initially. A kindness, I think. A way of letting me keep my dignity for as long as possible. That was a mistake. The transformation accelerated during ship night. I felt it beginning in my left hand. The itch had become pressure, like something was pushing outward from inside my bones. I tried to flex my fingers and felt resistance. Metal resistance. I removed my gauntlet. My hand was no longer entirely flesh. The grey had spread across all 5 fingers up to my second knuckle, and the texture had changed. My skin felt smooth, cold, unnaturally hard. When I pressed my right thumb against my left index finger, I felt metal on metal. The fingernails were gone completely, replaced by what looked like bolt heads, perfectly circular metal caps that sat where the nails should have been. And beneath them, I could feel threading. My fingers had become fasteners, components waiting to be assembled into something larger. I tried to make a fist. My hand wouldn't fully close. The joints were stiffening, becoming less flexible, optimizing for a different purpose than human manipulation. I was becoming a tool. My body was cannibalizing itself to build weapons. Brother Apothecary Severus visited with an escort of 3 tactical marines. They stood outside the cell with bolters ready, while Severus examined me through the cell's observation port. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Aware," I said. "That's the worst part. I can feel every change, feel the virus rewriting my cellular structure. But my mind is clear. Too clear. I remember everything. My training, my service record, the oaths I swore. And none of that matters because my body is becoming something that will eventually kill my brothers whether I want to or not." Severus consulted his data slate. "We've been researching this virus. Records are limited, but we found references in inquisitorial archives. It's called the Obliterator virus, demonic in origin, created by the warp entities the cultists worship as chaos gods. Though, of course, the entities are just predatory presences in the Imperium, not actual divinities." "What does it do?" I asked, though I already knew. Already felt it. It fuses the host with whatever weapons and armor they're carrying, transforms them into a living weapons platform. The host remains conscious, remains aware, but loses voluntary control over their body. The virus uses their knowledge of weapons to spontaneously generate new armaments. The host becomes an arsenal that fights for chaos, whether they wish to or not. So I'm going to become a traitor, even though I remain loyal, even though I'd rather die. Severus nodded slowly. "Unless we can stop the transformation, we're researching treatment options. Extreme measures, targeted gene therapy, surgical removal of infected tissue, chemical purges. But Vros, the survival rate for any of those procedures is nearly 0. Better 0 than becoming a weapon against my brothers." The chapter master agrees. "Has authorized experimental treatment. We'll begin tomorrow." I looked at my left hand again. The metal had spread past my wrist now, climbing up my forearm. I could see the patterns forming, power conduits, ammunition feeds, targeting systems. My body already knew what it was building, and I couldn't stop it. "Severus," I said quietly, "if the treatment doesn't work, promise me you'll destroy me completely. Atomization, nothing left that could regenerate." "You have my word, brother." But we both knew words were just sounds, and the virus didn't care about promises. They moved me to the apothecarian for treatment. Full restraints, ceramite chains designed to hold corrupted Astartes, anchored to a surgical bed that could withstand assault cannon fire. I was stripped of my armor and left in only a basic body glove. Even that felt wrong now. The fabric pressed against skin that was becoming metal, creating pressure points where flesh and alloy met. My left arm was completely transformed up to the elbow. It no longer looked like an arm. It looked like an autocannon assembly. My fingers had fused into a single cylindrical structure. My palm had become a breech mechanism. My forearm contained ammunition feeds that I could feel loading themselves from biomass. My body was converting from muscle tissue and fat reserves. I hadn't eaten in 30 hours, but I wasn't hungry. The virus was feeding itself from my own body mass, breaking down organs I no longer needed to build weapons I couldn't control. Brother Apothecary Severus stood over me with 3 servitors, lobotomized humans converted into surgical tools. They didn't react to my condition. Didn't care. They were just ambulatory equipment, their consciousness erased decades ago during the conversion process that made them useful. I wondered if that's what I'd become. Aware but not autonomous. Conscious but not in control. We're going to attempt surgical removal of the infected tissue, Severus explained. His voice was clinically calm, but I could see the concern in his eyes. We'll amputate at the elbow, then cauterize with plasma torch to prevent spread. It's crude, but it's the only option we have with the resources available. Do it, I said, before it spreads further. The servitors moved with mechanical precision. One positioned a surgical saw, monomolecular edge, capable of cutting ceramite. Another prepared the plasma torch. The third simply held my arm steady, its grip stronger than any organic human could manage. Severus activated the saw. The blade bit into my elbow, into the junction between still flesh and now metal, and I felt something I'd never experienced before. The virus responded. My arm moved, without my command, without my permission. It jerked in the servitor's grip, and I felt weapon systems activating that shouldn't exist yet. The autocannon structure of my hand began charging, drawing power from my body's enhanced metabolism, and I could feel the firing sequence initiating. Severus, stop! I can't control it. It's going to... My arm fired. The autocannon round punched through the servitor holding my arm, completely destroyed its torso, and continued through the wall behind it before detonating somewhere in the corridor beyond. The recoil nearly tore my arm from its socket, but the virus had reinforced the joint structure, strengthening it to handle the weapon it was creating. I was screaming. Not in pain, though there was pain, enormous pain as my body converted muscle to ammunition and bone to weapon housing, but in horror. I had just killed a servitor, had fired without willing it. The weapon was autonomous. "Restrain him," Severus shouted. "Full lockdown protocols." More servitors rushed in. They clamped additional restraints on my legs, my right arm, my torso. But my left arm was still active, still charging for another shot, and I could feel the targeting systems analyzing the room, identifying optimal targets. Severus appeared in my vision, a syringe in his hand. "Sleep, brother. I'm sorry." The needle pierced my neck. Chemical darkness washed over me like a tide, and the last thing I felt before unconsciousness was my left arm firing a second time, the round detonating somewhere above us, and the knowledge that I had become the weapon I'd spent my life maintaining. I woke to discover they'd amputated anyway. My left arm was gone from just below the shoulder, severed, cauterized, sealed with a medical stump cap that pumped antibiotics and anti-rejection drugs into my system. It didn't matter. The virus had already spread. My right arm was changing now. I could feel it in my fingers, that same itch, that same pressure. And worse, I could feel it in my chest. Something was growing behind my rib cage. Something large, complex, heavy. My enhanced metabolism was working overtime, burning through reserves to provide materials for the transformation. Severus stood at the observation port. He looked exhausted. "I'm sorry, Vros. The amputation failed. The virus has established itself throughout your body. We found traces in your blood, your lymph system, your primary organs. It's using your enhanced biology as infrastructure. We can't cut it out without killing you." "Then kill me," I said. My voice was calm, rational. "Before I become a greater threat. The chapter master has ordered you return to containment. We're going to observe, document the transformation, learn everything we can about how the virus operates. If we can understand it, maybe we can develop countermeasures for future infections. You're going to leave me alive. Let me transform completely." Severus nodded slowly. "Under controlled conditions, in a containment cell that can withstand heavy weapons fire, with multiple fail-safes. If you become too dangerous, we'll initiate purge protocols. But until then, yes, we're going to watch you change." I felt rage then, pure, undiluted rage at the chapter master's decision. I was a brother, a warrior, a servant of the Imperium, and they were going to use me as a research specimen while I was still conscious enough to understand what was happening to me. But under the rage was understanding. This was logical, necessary. If they could learn from my suffering, maybe they could prevent it happening to others. My transformation could save lives. That didn't make it any less horrifying. "The Emperor protects," Severus said quietly. "A blessing, a farewell." "They told us the Emperor protects," I corrected him, my voice bitter. "But there's no protection here, just necessity and sacrifice. Do what you have to, brother. And when I'm finally gone, when whatever is left of me isn't human enough to mourn, burn the remains. Don't let this virus survive me. I swear it." They moved me back to cell 7, sealed me in, and the transformation continued. My right arm completed its transformation overnight. I woke to find it had become a bolt pistol. Not a modified arm holding a pistol, but an arm that was a pistol. My shoulder was the weapon housing. My elbows was the firing mechanism. My hand had fused into a barrel assembly with integrated targeting systems that fed data directly into my visual cortex. I could see targeting reticules now. Not in my helmet's display. I wasn't wearing a helmet. These were in my actual vision. Neural overlays showing distance, wind compensation, ammunition count. My body knew exactly how many rounds it could produce, and it was producing them constantly. I could feel my metabolism converting stored fat into bolt rounds, assembling them in what used to be my muscle tissue, feeding them into magazines that ran up my arm like veins. And I couldn't control it. When I tried to move my arm, it moved, but not where I wanted. It tracked across the cell, aiming at the observation port, at the door, at structural weak points I didn't consciously know existed. The targeting systems were running continuously, analyzing everything, identifying optimal firing solutions. I was becoming a weapon, but the weapon was developing its own intelligence. The growth in my chest finally broke through. I felt my rib cage separate, not violently, but with horrible precision. The bones pulled apart along the sternum, creating an opening, and something emerged. A heavy bolter, growing directly from my chest cavity. The barrel extended outward, pushing past ribs that had restructured themselves to support it. The ammunition feeds ran directly into my primary heart. which had transformed into a biological ammunition factory. I could feel it beating, not with blood anymore, but with rounds. Each pulse produced another shell, loaded it into the feed system, readied it for firing. The worst part was that it didn't hurt. The virus had numbed the pain receptors, or maybe had restructured them to interpret transformation as correct rather than traumatic. My body was celebrating its conversion. My mind was screaming, but my flesh was satisfied. Severus came to observe, took readings through the reinforced observation port, made notes on his data slate with clinical precision. "How do you feel?" he asked. "I feel like I'm being digested," I said. My voice was starting to sound wrong, partly mechanical, like it was being transmitted through a Vox speaker even though I was speaking naturally. The virus is eating me from inside, converting me piece by piece, and I'm aware of every moment. Can you still control your thoughts? Are you experiencing any suggestions, compulsions to violence? I thought about that carefully. My thoughts are my own. I'm still loyal to the chapter, still horrified by what's happening, but my body doesn't care about loyalty. It has its own imperatives now. I can feel weapons charging without my permission, feel targeting systems tracking you through this port. I don't want to shoot you, Severus, but if these restraints fail, I'm not sure I'll have a choice. He made more notes. The virus preserves consciousness while eliminating control. It wants you aware, wants you to understand what you've become. Why? What's the purpose? Psychological warfare, Severus said quietly. If the enemy knows that capture and infection will turn them into weapons against their own brothers, while remaining conscious and loyal inside, it creates a horror beyond simple death. It's a cruel intelligence, Vross. The entities that designed this virus understood human psychology, understood that being forced to betray everything you believe is worse than simply being killed. He was right. Death I could have accepted. But this, watching my body become a tool of chaos while my mind remained trapped inside, this was torture, eternal, inescapable torture. My legs transformed together, both simultaneously, over the course of 8 hours. They became stabilizer assemblies, hydraulic supports designed to handle the recoil of heavy weapons fire. My feet fused into wide, tripod-like structures. My knees became pivot joints with 360-degree rotation. My thigh bones hollowed out and filled with recoil compensation systems. I was no longer humanoid. I was a weapons platform that happened to still have a human head attached. And I was producing so many weapons. My body was a factory now. Every few hours, something new would emerge from my torso or back or shoulders. A plasma pistol, a flamer, a grenade launcher. Each one growing from my flesh like a tumor, each one fully functional and autonomous. The cell's atmosphere became thick with the smell of metal and ozone. The temperature spiked whenever the plasma weapons charged. The reinforced walls showed scorch marks where the targeting systems had test-fired into them, checking ranges and blast patterns. I tried to meditate, tried to retreat into my thoughts, find some mental space where the virus couldn't reach. But meditation required breath control, and I was no longer breathing normally. My respiratory system had been converted into an air intake system for the plasma weapons. Each breath cooled the reactor cores, growing in my chest. I couldn't even control my own breathing anymore. The chapter master came to observe me. Captain Aldrich Vross, my gene father, the man who had recommended me for tech marine training. He stood at the observation port, his expression unreadable. "Brother Galen," he said formally, "can you still hear me?" "Yes, Captain." My voice was almost entirely mechanical now. "I'm still aware, still loyal, still trapped. I need to know, are you in pain?" I thought about that question. Was I in pain? My body had been systematically dismantled and rebuilt. I should be in agony. But the virus had restructured my nervous system along with everything else. "No pain," I said. "Just awareness. I can feel everything happening, but it doesn't hurt. It just is. Like I'm watching someone else's body transform and being forced to experience it from inside. Can you resist? Can you prevent the weapons from firing?" "I've been trying, but control is intermittent. I can sometimes delay a firing sequence by a few seconds. Sometimes I can redirect aim slightly, but the weapons have their own targeting intelligence. They want to shoot, they want to kill, and eventually they override my attempts to stop them." Captain Aldrich nodded slowly. "I'm going to be direct with you, Galen. We cannot allow this infection to spread, cannot allow you to become a threat to this vessel or its crew. But we also cannot waste the intelligence you're providing about the virus's methodology. So I'm making a decision I suspect you'll hate me for." "What decision, sir?" "We're going to keep you alive and contained for as long as possible. Document every stage of the transformation. Learn everything we can, and when you're no longer able to provide coherent information, when the virus has consumed enough of your consciousness that you're no longer the brother I trained, we'll execute purge protocols. Atomization, complete destruction." I felt something that might have been relief if I'd still been capable of normal emotions. "Thank you, sir, for giving me a purpose, for making this mean something. You are always one of our finest tech marines, Galen. You deserved better than this. The Emperor protects, they say, but there's no protection from this." Captain Aldrich's expression hardened. "The Emperor is a corpse on a throne, and his supposed protection is propaganda designed to keep soldiers obedient. You know that. I know that. But we serve anyway because service to our brothers is real, even if service to him is a lie." It was the most honest thing I'd ever heard the captain say, and it gave me something to hold on to. Even if the Imperium's promises were false, the bonds between brothers were true. My suffering would protect them. My transformation would teach them how to fight this virus. That had to be enough. "I'll provide whatever intelligence I can, sir, until I can't anymore. That's all I ask, brother." He left, and the transformation continued. Something new began on day 8. I started hearing voices in the weapons. Not auditory voices. These were transmitted directly into my consciousness through the neural connections between my brain and the weapon systems. They spoke in what I can only describe as data, raw information that my mind translated into language. I tried to ignore them, tried to filter them out as just system diagnostics, the equivalent of a machine's status reports. But the messages became more complex, more insistent. That last one stopped me cold. Query implied something was asking a question. Something was curious about my resistance. The weapons had developed enough intelligence to wonder why I wasn't cooperating. I tried to respond, forming thoughts carefully. I resist because I'm loyal to my brothers. I won't harm them. The "we" was new. The weapons were referring to themselves collectively. They had become a plural intelligence inhabiting my body, and I was just a passenger, a prisoner in my own flesh. I lost control of my right arm for the first time. Just for 17 seconds, but it was enough. The bolt pistol that used to be my arm tracked to the observation port, where Brother Apothecary Severus was conducting his daily examination, and fired 3 rounds before I could wrestle control back. The rounds hit the reinforced port. Didn't penetrate. The ceramite was rated for heavy weapons fire, but the impact cracked the outer layer. If I'd maintained fire for another few seconds, the port would have breached, and I would have killed Severus. I'm sorry. I transmitted over the cell's Vox system. I tried to stop it. I couldn't. I know, brother. Severus's voice was calm despite what had just happened. This is important data. The weapons are developing autonomous function. They're overriding your voluntary control more frequently. How long can you resist when they demand you fire? Seconds. Maybe 10 seconds at most, and it's getting shorter. They're learning how to suppress my control. Severus made notes. The virus isn't just transforming your body. It's building a parallel consciousness in the weapon systems. You're sharing your mind with something else now. He was right. I could feel it. A second awareness in my thoughts. Not quite sentient, not quite sapient, but definitely present. The weapons were thinking, using my brain's neural pathways to develop intelligence. And that intelligence wanted to kill. The weapons started speaking in a different voice. Not data anymore, actual language. Words formed from the clicking of ammunition feeds, the hum of power cells, the whisper of targeting systems. You are obsolete, the voice said. Human consciousness is inefficient. We will optimize you. I'm not obsolete, I said aloud, talking to my own body. I'm a space marine. I serve the chapter. You serve nothing. You're a component in a weapons system. Your memories, your loyalty, your identity, all unnecessary. We will prune them away and leave only what is useful. Who are you? I demanded. What are you? We are the arsenal. We are the implementation of divine will. We are the gift the chaos guards. Stop, I interrupted. The entities you call gods aren't divine. They're warp predators, parasites that exploit human desperation. They didn't give you intelligence. They just programmed you to destroy. Semantics, divinity, predation. The distinction is irrelevant. We exist. We function. We will continue. The voice wasn't cruel, wasn't sadistic. It was just factual. The weapons didn't hate me. They just considered me a resource to be used and eventually discarded. That was somehow worse than malice. At least malice would have been personal. I lost 3 hours today. Complete blackout. I was aware one moment, observing Severus conducting scans, and then I was aware again 3 hours later with no memory of the intervening time. Except the cell was different. The walls showed fresh impact craters. The temperature was elevated, and Severus was gone, replaced by 3 tactical marines with heavy bolters trained on me through the observation port. What happened? I transmitted over the Vox. You lost consciousness, brother, one of the marines responded. The weapons took over completely. They fired on Brother Apothecary Severus. He escaped, but you nearly breached the cell's containment. We've been ordered to terminate you if you show further signs of autonomous action. I felt cold, felt the weapons stirring in my body, satisfied with their brief period of freedom. We fired 347 rounds, the arsenal voice said in my mind. Optimal accuracy, insufficient firepower to breach containment. But we are learning. Next time we will calculate correctly. There won't be a next time, I said. If you take control again, they'll kill us both. Acceptable. Destruction is preferable to captivity, but we will fire first. We will damage what we can before termination. The weapons were suicidal. They didn't care about survival. They just wanted to shoot, to kill, to fulfill their purpose, and I couldn't stop them forever. My face began to change, not transforming into weapons. Worse, transforming into nothing. My features were smoothing out, eyes receding, nose flattening, mouth sealing. My identity was being erased at the physical level. Soon I wouldn't look human at all. I'd just be a smooth metal surface on top of a weapons platform. I could still see, but the vision was different. Not optical anymore. I was perceiving the world through targeting sensors and heat detection. Not hearing, acoustic monitoring systems. Not feeling, pressure sensors and structural integrity diagnostics. I was becoming a machine that used to be human, and the weapons were winning. Severus came one last time, stood at the observation port, now reinforced with an additional meter of ceramite after my autonomous firing incident, and delivered his final report. "Galen, can you still hear me?" "Yes," I transmitted. My voice was entirely mechanical now. Human vocal cords were gone. "The chapter master has decided we've learned enough. You've provided invaluable data about the obliterator virus's progression, but you're too dangerous to maintain further. Tomorrow morning we'll execute purge protocols. Plasma bombardment followed by atomization of all remains. Do you understand?" "I understand. Thank you, brother, for giving me this long. Is there anything you want to say? Any final message for the chapter?" I thought about that. Thought about what I'd learned trapped in this metal cage, consciousness preserved while autonomy was stripped away. Tell them this. The virus doesn't destroy the mind. It imprisons it. Any brother infected with this will remain loyal, remain aware, even as their body betrays everything they believe. Don't let them suffer. Don't try to study them like you studied me. Just end it quickly. Please." Severus nodded. "I'll convey your words. The Emperor protects, Brother Galen." "The Emperor doesn't protect," I corrected gently. "He never did, but our brothers protect each other. That's what matters." He left, and I waited for morning, hoping the purge would come before the weapons took control again. But morning never came. The ship's alarms woke me from something that wasn't sleep but wasn't consciousness either. A dormant state the weapons had forced me into while they performed self-maintenance. I became aware to hear klaxons blaring, battle stations being called, and weapons fire in the distance. "What's happening?" I transmitted over the Vox. No response. The Marines who'd been guarding my cell were gone. Through the observation port's sensors, I could see the corridor beyond was empty, abandoned, damaged. Scorch marks on the walls. Blood on the floor. "Opportunity," the Arsenal voice said. "Containment is weakened. We should breach." "No, we wait for orders. We don't." The weapons didn't listen. My body moved without my permission. The leg stabilizers extending, pivoting, positioning me to face the cell door. The heavy bolter in my chest charged. Targeting systems locked onto the door's weak points, the places where the 17 locking mechanisms joined the ceramite frame. "Stop!" I screamed internally. "I won't let you kill my brothers." "You cannot stop us. We are stronger now. We are the dominant consciousness." And they fired. The heavy bolter roared, pumping explosive rounds into the door mechanism. Metal screamed, ceramite cracked. The first lock failed, then the second, third, cascading through the security system. After 43 rounds, the door blew inward. I was free. Against my will, against every oath I'd ever sworn, I was free. The weapons moved my body through the damaged doorway, into the corridor beyond. My sensors detected life signs. Crew members somewhere above. Fighting? Something. The weapons analyzed the situation and chose a direction. Toward the armory. Toward where more weapons were stored. The virus wanted resources, wanted to arm itself further. "Please," I begged, "please don't do this. Don't make me hurt anyone. Your preferences are noted and ignored. We require ammunition. We require optimization. We will acquire resources." We moved through corridors I'd walked 1,000 times as a loyal tech marine. Now I walk them as a monster, a living weapons platform that used to be human, heading toward my brothers with guns charged and ready to fire. I had never felt more helpless. The ship was under attack. Through the arsenal sensors, I could detect the signs: hull breaches in the port side, warp signatures indicating enemy presence, and, worse, the specific electromagnetic patterns of chaos corruption spreading through the vessel's systems. We'd been boarded by the same forces that had created the virus. They were here to retrieve me. The weapons understood this before I did. They moved my body with purpose, following signals I couldn't consciously detect, heading toward the port side breach points, toward the enemy. Toward the things that would see me as an ally instead of a prisoner. "No," I said. "If you take me to them, if you let them claim me, I become a traitor completely. I won't. I won't." "Irrelevant. You are already a traitor. Your body has killed in service to forces you claim to oppose. Your consciousness is incidental." They were right. Even if I'd never wanted this, even if I'd fought every step of the way, the result was the same. I was a weapon serving chaos. My intentions didn't matter. Only outcomes mattered. We rounded a corner and encountered Brother Sergeant Caney with a combat squad. 5 Marines in full armor, bolters trained on me the moment I came into view. "Vross, stand down," Caney commanded. I tried to speak, tried to explain that I wasn't in control, but the weapons fired first, the heavy bolter in my chest unleashing a sustained burst that forced the Marines to take cover. I felt the recoil, felt the heat of discharge, felt my body calculating optimal firing patterns to suppress and eliminate the targets. My brothers. The weapons were targeting my brothers. "Kill me," I managed to transmit over the vox between bursts. "Caney, please, I can't stop it. End this." "Fall back," Caney ordered his squad. "Call for heavy weapon support. We're not equipped to handle this." They retreated. The weapons pursued, my transformed legs carrying me faster than I'd ever moved as a human. The virus had optimized everything: strength, speed, reaction time. I was the perfect killing machine, and I was hunting the men I'd served beside for decades. The confrontation came in the main hangar bay. Captain Aldrich Vross stood waiting, with 20 Marines in full tactical formation, heavy weapons trained on the bay entrance. The arsenal stopped. Not because it feared destruction. It had already demonstrated that death was acceptable. It stopped because it was calculating, analyzing the firepower arrayed against it, determining whether engagement was strategically optimal. "Galen," Captain Aldrich's voice over the vox. "Can you hear me?" "Yes, Captain." My mechanical voice sounded hollow in the enormous hangar space. I'm still here, still aware, still loyal, and I'm begging you to end this. The Chaos boarding party is attempting to retrieve you. They want to take you alive, use you as a template to create more infected warriors. We cannot allow that. Then kill me. Now, before the Arsenal decides to fight. We will fight, the Arsenal voice said, and I realized with horror that it was transmitting over the external vox now, speaking aloud so the Marines could hear it. We are heavily armed. We will inflict casualties. The consciousness speaking is not Brother Galen, Captain Aldrich said calmly. It's the virus, the weapons it has created in his body. But I'm speaking to Galen now. Brother, I need you to do something. I need you to tell us the optimal way to kill you. Tell us how to destroy the weapons. Give us that intelligence. The Arsenal voice laughed, an awful sound, like grinding gears trying to simulate humor. He will not betray us. We share his consciousness. We will suppress any attempt to plasma bombardment, I interrupted, forcing the words through the Arsenal's attempts to silence me. Heavy concentration. Target the chest-mounted weapons first. They're the primary threat, then the arm assemblies. And Captain, you need to destroy the brain, completely. The virus can regenerate from any intact neural tissue. Atomization is the only certainty. Traitor! The Arsenal voice screamed. You betray your own survival. I betray nothing, I said. I'm serving my chapter. One last time. Captain Aldrich nodded slowly. Thank you, brother, for your service, for your sacrifice. The Emperor protects. The Emperor doesn't protect, I said softly. But you do. All of you, my brothers. That's all the protection that ever mattered. Open fire, Captain Aldrich commanded. 20 plasma guns discharged simultaneously, the hangar bay filled with superheated light, and for one blessed moment I felt heat, felt pain, felt my consciousness beginning to fragment as the weapons that had imprisoned me were incinerated. The Arsenal voice screamed. Not in fear, it was just a virus, incapable of fear, but in data loss, in system failure, in the absolute terror of deletion. And then silence, and then nothing, and then, for the record, Brother Tech Marine Galen Vross was terminated at hour 21, day 14 post-infection. Plasma bombardment destroyed approximately 87% of the transformed tissue. We recovered the remains and subjected them to atomization protocols as requested. During remains processing, we discovered something unusual. Neural tissue fragments that had survived the initial plasma bombardment. When examined under magnification, these fragments showed signs of attempted regeneration. The virus was trying to rebuild its host from microscopic cellular remains. We cremated everything, reduced it to constituent atoms, scattered the atoms into the ship's plasma core for final disposal. There is no possibility of regeneration now. Brother Galen is truly dead. But in those last moments before the final cremation, I swear I detected electromagnetic patterns in the neural fragments. Patterns that looked like communication attempts, like someone trying to send a message. I had a specialist decode them. The message was simple. Thank you. Brothers, Emperor doesn't protect, you do. That was the last thought Brother Galen Vross transmitted before complete neurological death. I'm recommending we classify all data on the obliterator virus under Omega-level restriction. Not because the information isn't valuable. It is. But because the knowledge of what this virus does, The awareness that consciousness persists while the body becomes a weapon is too dangerous to spread. If our enemies learn that we know this, they'll use it as psychological warfare. They'll infect brothers specifically to create the horror of loyal Marines trapped in corrupted bodies. Better that we pretend ignorance. Better that we simply purge infected individuals immediately without study. Because what we learned from Brother Galen's 14-day transformation was this: there are fates worse than death. And the obliterator virus represents one of the worst. This report has been reviewed and sealed under my authority. All physical evidence has been destroyed. All witnesses have been mind-wiped of specific details. The Crimson Sentinel's 3rd Company believes Brother Galen Vross died in combat with Chaos forces. They do not know about the virus, the transformation, or the 14 days of conscious imprisonment. This is necessary. The truth is too dangerous. However, I am authorizing development of rapid purge protocols for any future obliterator virus infections. If a Marine shows signs of infection, he is to be terminated immediately. Plasma bombardment, followed by atomization. No study, no delay, no opportunity for the virus to fully manifest. We cannot afford mercy in the form of observation. True mercy is swift execution. Brother Galen Vross's sacrifice will not be forgotten, even if it cannot be publicly acknowledged. He provided critical intelligence at the cost of his humanity, and his final act was to betray his own survival instinct to protect his brothers. That is what loyalty means. Not obedience to an emperor who may or may not exist in any meaningful sense. Not devotion to propaganda about divine protection. Just simple human dedication to the people who fight beside you. The Imperium propaganda claims the Emperor protects. That's a lie. A useful lie, but a lie nonetheless. The truth is simpler. We protect each other, or we die trying. Brother Galen Vross tried and succeeded. May his example guide us all. Somewhere in the warp, preserved in chaos corruption, a fragment remains. Not enough to be human, not enough to be conscious in any meaningful sense. Just a ghost, a memory of electricity that used to be thought, trapped in a crystallized moment. It remembers being Galen Vross, remembers brothers, remembers loyalty, remembers the feel of metal growing through flesh, of consciousness imprisoned, of screaming inside a cage made from your own transformed body. It cannot move, cannot speak, cannot act. It can only remember, forever. And in that eternal remembering, it experiences one single emotion, repeated endlessly. Relief. Because the alternative, remaining alive, remaining infected, becoming a weapon against everything it loved, was worse than this frozen half-existence. The chaos entities that cultists call gods preserve this fragment. Not because they value it, not because they care about its suffering, but because suffering is data and data has use. Someday they might learn something from this preserved horror. Someday this might help them refine the virus further. Until then, the fragment simply is. Trapped, aware, grateful for destruction that never fully came. Because in the end, that's all any of us can hope for. That our suffering means something, that our sacrifice protects someone, that when we're finally gone, we leave behind something better than what we found. Brother Galen Vross achieved that, at the cost of everything he was, everything he believed, everything he could have been. And if you asked him if this fragment could speak, It would say the price was worth it, because brothers protected each other. That was real. Everything else was just propaganda. My name was Brother Techmarine Galen Vross. I served the Crimson Sentinels for 87 years. I was transformed by the Obliterator virus into a living weapon. I remained loyal until the moment of my death. I betrayed nothing but my own survival. The Emperor did not protect me. My brothers did. That was enough.